All right, guys. Hopefully this is picking me up. I just wanted to do a weekend update here. I said I was going to do some gameplay footage last night. It's Sunday now at 2:35 in the afternoon. I said I was going to do some gameplay footage yesterday, but I really wanted to focus on my game last night, and the games were good, and it did not disappoint in that it was the weekend. And further, I mean, I'm still relatively new at this, so I'm new. So I rather than just play and everything, just like some of the videos that you'll see on some of the professional training sites all the time and talk. And, this way I can focus a little bit more on the content of what I'm saying and show you some of the features of database analysis using Drive HUD here, where you can look over your sessions and you can replay your hands. And I'll give a little quick introduction. I'll make this video relatively quick just to update. But in the future, I'm going to show you some of the software that you can use, like this piece of software down here, which is called Flopzilla, which is fantastic. There's all sorts of work that you can do with this to compare your range of hands against your opponent's range of hands. You can open up a program called Hold EQ and start to compare multiple ranges versus other ranges. You can look at the equity distribution of that range and all the hands in it. And we'll get into what a range is and everything else like that. I'm assuming I know a lot of people do know what that is and they know more than me. And then there's other people that have no idea what a range is whatsoever. So we'll get into things like that later. And I know this may look a little daunting at first, but it's really not. Once you get the hang of it, it's really easy to use. And ultimately, you're looking to build your intuition at the tables, basically. Of course, you can't know everything statistically and numerically at the tables in real time. That's not the objective in poker. And if you strive for that, you're going to wind up spending a lot of time basically analyzing things that your time could be better spent when decision making during real time in the game on other things. And also, this will give you a good. I mean, you're in the dark completely. We were talking about information last time. You're trying to gather information, and you're in the dark. So, the more this gives you a good starting point, all of these things, and then you can narrow things down based on your opponent, his betting tendencies, his betting frequencies, what kind of hands he usually opens from what position, blah, 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 blah. So it starts getting, again, we can start narrowing things down from where it seems like, oh my God, I have no idea, to we have a pretty good idea. So that's how we'll get into things like that and how modern poker players study theory and different spots. But let's just look at different hands. Let's just look back here. And now, last night, where are we at? We're at 5:20 in the afternoon. Okay, so here's just some sessions from yesterday. Let me see what this one was. I don't remember this one. Some of these sessions have been short for me because mainly the thing here is last weekend and a little bit during the early part of the week I had spent some time mainly for practice, also to get comfortable with it, but also to see what's profitable. And I had some posts up on like the Run It Once forums and everything pertaining to this. But playing really deep, where I was winning last weekend big, I started putting, playing with 20, 30, 40, $50 in my stack at 10 and L tables and getting used to being deep because one, I'd like to move up to 25 and L, and I want to get used to that. Two, like I said, I wanted to see what the different dynamics were and start getting comfortable with that too, of being one guy at $14 and me having double his stack and seeing what it is. And also conversely, when mainly the thing is when I have 300 big blinds and my opponents have 300 big blinds or more. So the effective stack is 300 big blinds plus or something like that. Do we even want to play like that at cash game tables? Do we want to, what kind of, what are the dynamics necessary to play like that? All those things I started thinking about. But we can get into that too. On this, I just wanted to, like I said, focus this weekend on my just getting some money together, building my bankroll, and not playing deep when I started to win, double up, things like that. If the game changes at all, doesn't seem as profitable, get out. Not playing, from 20 to 220 big blinds deep, and the game dynamics change. It doesn't look good. Time to get out. So these aren't super long sessions, but they've been very profitable. The win rate overall, as you see the last time I recorded that video, I was having that terrible. It wasn't a terrible session. I think it was just very difficult to make any money. It was a difficult session. I did learn from that session. My VPIP and my PFR have tightened tremendously. I'm three betting more. My aggression isn't up. which is good almost for me to see. It's being placed in better spots and more appropriate spots, so it's more pinpoint and it's been effective. But we were at 6.2 and change, I think, something like that. I have to look back at the last video or the date. Big blinds per 100. And I guess that was only about 500 or 600 hands ago. But now we're all the way back up to 11.25 big blinds per 100. We've won over 2.5 stacks, almost 3 stacks since we've posted, since we put the video up just 2 days ago. And I'll show you some of the ways how. And we'll say, well, it's the weekend. The weekend doesn't disappoint. It never does. This is the difference between the weekdays and the weekend is absolutely ridiculous. So I'll show here, but go back. Again, this is DriveHUD's main interface. It's far less daunting and overwhelming than some of the other interfaces, in the sense that it's a little more modern, user-friendly. I mean, graphically it's beautiful, of course, but this is the interface. Here's my sessions, and this is just going back to the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, and you look at the length of them. They've been relatively quick hitters. I had on Bet Online. I had a pretty long session yesterday sometime. I don't remember exactly when, but you see we're winning. And this is some of the ways how. So yesterday's fine. Let's go to this hand first. I think this is the one I want to look at first, yeah. And just to give you an idea. Now, we pull this up. So yesterday at this session, and it shows you what time your session started, the session length. I mean, it's really in-depth, helpful. And I'll just show you guys quick. There's all these different statistics and everything. But then if I just right-click, I pull up all these other menus of statistics and things that I want to look at that I can analyze my game with. So this is, like I said, it's a beautiful HUD because it's as simple as you want it to be, or it's as complex as you want it to be. So, but we'll get out of that for right now. We'll just look at this. But let's go back to this hand here because we're in this session that we were looking at. Now we're going to pull this up. This is called the hand replayer. Now, this is also really nice too. I like this a lot. Now this has the little boxes I can move around or whatever else I want to do with them, and they'll always return to their standard position on the next hand, which is nice. But I'm still digging into all this stuff fully, but this is just to show you, because this is why it's good that we can analyze some spots when I'm not in gameplay footage. Just make sure that the microphone's actually picking me up. It should be. And, actually look at them and explain them without being distracted by 3 hands or, getting myself into spots at the tables or things like that, or not being able to focus that where I otherwise would if I wasn't recording a video. So, but we're definitely going to continue with live play videos and things like that. But I just wanted to update this and show some of the differences. So I'm I believe I'm in the big blind here, yes. So, and that's what, I'm in the big blind. I post the 10 cents and cut off calls. Let's just move this box because button's not in the hand. Small blind's not in the hand. I'm in the hand. We'll just put this here and here. And that's villain. That's what we refer to our opponent, our main opponent of in any hand is villain. Hero is me. Villain is player 6 over here. So he raises in 30. We get a call from the small blind. And I do something that's unusual for me, but I've been playing a lot lately. You 3-bet ace-king almost religiously. I honestly cannot remember the last time, and this is especially from the big blind with a caller from the small blind. I can't remember the last time that I did 3-bet ace-king. And I just got an instinct and intuition to read, and you'll develop this over time. Not to this time. I thought this player was weak. The cutoff, I see his stats here, and this is just over 13 hands, but he's playing half of his hands. He is 3-betting. He's aggressive. I just think I'm ahead of his range here, his opening range. I also think small blind's weak. I don't know. I did it relatively quickly too, but I thought it was a good play. Plus, you want to mix your frequencies up, and you don't want to always be doing the same thing. So this is just a rare 1 out of literally 100 times where I just didn't 3-bet ace-king. So the flop comes down, and it's exactly what I'm looking for in the sense that it's not a coordinated board other than the 2 clubs. I mean, I have top pair, top kicker. I mean, what does he have that beats me? He has pocket 2s, he has pocket 3s. I mean, we're, how many combos are we talking? Handful. So this is the situation. This is what I was looking for, was to check. And just to dog out And again, some newer players say, well, I bet to see where I'm at in the hand. Betting for information is not why we bet in poker. We bet in poker to get value from weaker hands or to fold out stronger hands. Now, there's other reasons to do things like protection, and then you get into some really complicated theories, betting theories and things like that. But I bet because I want to start building the pot because I have top pair, top kicker, and I'm also giving him a chance to do this, which is he comes in. I mean, he does exactly why we were calling in the first place. Is I think the guy's going to be weak, and I think he's going to overplay his hand. Small blind knows better. He just gets out of it, and I mean now he's bet 240 into the pot. The pot's 380. He's only got $8 basically left in his stack. I mean, what are we going to raise to? Obviously, we're going to get the money in here against this player. So we get it in. He didn't even in the game. I mean, this isn't real time, obviously. I'm just replaying, but in the game, he didn't even think on both decisions, on every decision on this hand. He didn't even consider it. Think nothing. Insta called. Now, of course, that comes down, and we were a good favorite, and we won the hand. Now, right there, that's a stack. I mean, that's 100 big blinds basically. I just won. Now, of course, the rake took some, but and I mean, the guy is you just saw that session that we had the other day. Nobody would do that in that session. No player at the table would make that play. But on the weekend, it is garden variety. So then just a little bit after that, we come to the next session. Just a little bit later, we sat out. Eventually, we had a big stack. We were up a full buy-in. And we have, again, I told you this has been the way I've been running. I have not seen aces or kings or anything in ages. But I keep seeing ace king, and it keeps being very profitable, and I keep playing it different ways. And so here's another hand. This was just maybe half an hour later or whatever, and another guy. I'm in the cutoff now. He's in the big blind. He's got ace 10. Was this the one? Yeah, I'm almost sure this was the one. This guy joined the table, and he was sitting here. He's got 53 hands. This is the guy. He was playing. His stats look okay. 34, 23, 20, 50. But the thing is that 34 is wide in this game. He's calling a lot. He's just, overall, I've been watching him long enough to know that he studies, he watches videos, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's not ultra, positionally aware. But I've also identified that the guy's beginning to tilt. You see the 925 in his stack. He's not topping back up immediately. He's been losing, not much, but every hand he gets into, he's been having to fold. And I can just identify that he's having some issues here. So he's on the small blind. We get the fold from under the gun. I'm in from middle, but effective cutoff because we are five-handed. And bang. Button folds. He 3-bets ace 10. Now, this was after I actually, I almost remember because I was playing, a lot last night and then late and I was tired. He had already, yes, this guy had just stacked off. We're seeing the whole cards, of course, now, but he had just stacked off against player 5 over here where my mouse is. See how he's got 22-19? That's from this guy. Now, X-Ray's note is bet strong with strong mate. This guy just did this. Now, we'll look over here. He's got this note, 5-bet, shove, bluff. It should be bluff, shove. Ace 10 offsuit. That's from the hand before, literally the hand before or 2 hands ago against player 5. He did this, ace 10. So I have ace king. He 3-bets me to 120. I don't see any reason not to get the money in here against a player like this that just did that with a range that wide. Because if we think, well, if he'll get it in with ace 10 in that spot, which he did, same thing, didn't even think, just got the money in against player 5, who was a good player, a solid player. If you look at 37, 31, 8, 3-bet, he was the other competent player, really, at the table. I mean, we're here to make money. This is what I learned a little while. People would say to me, well, people always worry about getting the money in, and they say it's always aces, it's always kings. No, more so do you see things like that in the micros where people are afraid to put money in, but not by 10 and 0. I mean, it's not like that, guys. Like, people are there to make money. They don't want to, especially in Ignition on the weekend. These guys don't want to sit through 3 hours to make their win rate for the make a nice win rate for the weekend and look good and work on their game. They want to win money quickly and get the money in. So we shove. We got the fold here from the blind, and then he shoves. I shove. He just totally snap called. And here we go. Of course, we were way ahead, and I mean, even if the extra heart came through on the turn of the river, we have that dominate because we have the ace of hearts. He has the 10 of hearts. I mean, he got stacked. This guy went on to get stacked again. And then we got into another pot with him where we check raised him with and hit the nut flush draw on the turn and bet again. And he folded out. We won another like $2 or $3 from him. And then he left. So he was we're glad that he played last night. But it's things like that. Here's another one. This is just before today on Sunday. Not even a couple hours ago. This made this a profitable session. And it was a matter of same thing. Here's the read. 4 bets light. And this is what's really good about DriveHUD is look at these, these notes. And Poker Tracker has a great note tracking feature. Their auto notes and everything. And you can update them and download new order codes. That's really ahead of the game and everything, in my opinion. And of course, with Hold'em Manager, you have that note caddy and everything. But DriveHUD is nice for people trying to get their feet wet that don't want to be overwhelmed with the stream of notes right off the bat. But at the same time, like I said, you can make it as detailed as you want. You can make your own notes. You can customize the HUD easier in those regards than you can with Poker Tracker and Hold'em Manager 4. Although, again, if you're a professional, I mean, you've been using those two for years now, so you probably have things set the way you want. But you would be able to set this up very quickly if you understand those, basically. So that's what it's a matter of. But this guy is ridiculous. I mean, the fact that it's 8 hands, so the fact that he's playing 75, 50, 66 doesn't necessarily mean anything. But the fact that he's not topped up and he just played a terrible hand and got stacked by 4 betting 6-4 offsuit, and he already cold called a 3-bet with ace-3 offsuit or ace-3 suited. Look, again, it's the week. We know what we see what kind of a player we're dealing with here, so we can start to assign some kind of a range. So I'm out here in the cutoff with a beautiful hand, obviously, ace-10 suited, and I'm not in the cutoff. I'm in middle position. So I open a 30. There is nobody. That's right. There's nobody in the cutoff. So I'm basically the cutoff. And he just open shoves. Now, we didn't see the whole cards, obviously, during the hand and everything. But for $7, for 76 big blinds, I'm not going to fold this hand, obviously. And, I mean, that's one of the things that, he didn't do this for any strategic reason. He's just, who knows what his issue is. But I don't have any option to raise him or to check, see a flop and check raise him or outplay him post flop. He just shoves, so the decision tree is cut to nothing. Basically, 2 decisions. I can fold, I can call. So that's it. So, but he didn't do this to cut off. We'll get into that later. That's more into river play and later streets and everything, cutting off people's decision trees and everything. But, when we get into fold equity and stack sizes and stack to pot ratio, complicated stuff. Not really when you really take a look at it, but that's not the point of this. The point is there's nothing to do here but call, obviously, with ace-10 suited. And of course, we call and it comes down and we win out of their pot. Now, that's just showing you some of the features here of DriveHUD. Again, I didn't want to make this an overly long video, but of a HUD, of DriveHUD, of what the replayer is and how you can look at some of your hands, but also the difference in, so that you see I wasn't just making it up there in a week. I mean, the weekend is a totally different animal, but I'm improving, and you'll see this in my play over time. I'm starting to get things. Now, these are relatively straightforward hands. I mean, it doesn't take a poker genius to figure out these plays that I make. But I've also been starting to make better plays in general. Let me see where I can find another one. Just one where it would show like a good play that I would not have made just even last week, that I just wouldn't have gotten in. This is the one. Is this the 3s? Well, 10s is nice and everything, but this is the one I wanted to show you. Well, this is another preflop. It's small here, but it's another example, and we'll just look at this quick. Guy's got 45 big blinds, basically. Another weak player displaying bad, just fish-like tendencies, I guess as we would say. So I'm under the gun, and I come in with pocket 10s, and he raises to 80. He doesn't have anything left. I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to play post-flop? Of course not. So what we could do is just shove over the top of him. Look at his stats. We've watched him play now over 26 hands. We know his range is wide. He thought about this ace-jack forever. This guy was different. It wasn't insta. So obviously at 372, that might be all he has left to work with on the site. So we never know. But I know that 10-10 is a great shove here for value against this guy at this stack. And he He actually used all of his time, then all of his time bank, 60 seconds he had built up. And we're in. And of course, the flop is just magical. And of course, a few of the other players at the table laughed right away because he took forever to think about this. And the flop was ridiculous. Immediately he's dead in the water. So it was just, they laughed. And he's gone. Now, like this guy immediately, player 5, after this happened, he's gone. Another guy came in and sat down for 10 and bought in for 10 and, on to the next one. And we're looking to isolate players like this. Like I said, it's that old you don't see sharks eating each other on Discovery Channel. But as you get better, you can start taking little advantages, gradually taking more and more bigger bites for what margins the better players will allow you. And you'll get better and you'll start being able to handle the regulars at your game. And we're, of course, looking for players like this and how to identify them and what kind of hands to get in with them, because, it's just huge value against these guys. And that's why the same thing, the poker's dead, there's no money in it, everybody's solid. No, they're not, guys. And I'll show you on another video some of the hand histories I would see on forums and things. There's guys doing this at 100 NL. They're throwing 200 in the middle, just like this guy just did. The fact of the matter is there might be days where you sit there for not even just days, a week, where you don't see a player like that. Then you might see the whole weekend packed with them. There's really no way to know. We're also in late May. It's not prime time of the year for poker. From now until the end of the summer, it's mostly better players that are playing. Everybody else is off doing something else. They will be back in the fall and the winter, big time. That's the prime time, is the winter. And the games will only be easier then, so we're progressing. But I just wanted to show you some of these hands and everything. But that's a nice little 10-10 that we got in. Here's one, though, against a regular. And then I'll cut this video off for now. And but this guy was pretty good. Over 27. So he was 14, 11, 0. But you see, nobody's 3-betting. And in some of these games, that's the difference you'll notify right away. You see in the last, you'll notice right away. You see in the last video I recorded, guys were 3-betting on average like 25% at the table. Well, then there's other games on the weekend here. They're never 3-betting. Like, they're like shocked. They look at me. You can just tell everybody pauses. Like when somebody 3-bets, they're like, they think they have 3 heads. And this was a table where nobody was 3-betting really. And these guys were, but they're not bad. 11 to 12%. Those are good lines. This isn't 64% of his hands. This is ridiculous. But so anyway, he's got a pretty decent line, but he's not 3-betting at all. And we only have 27 hands on it. But I'm telling you, he was decent. You could tell. And he's got the $26. He was winning. And it wasn't just he hit it, he hit gold. He was playing decent. And you have to make quick identifications on an anonymous network. But obviously, we raised from the small blind. That's why I really like this hand, is we raised in from the small blind. He called. He didn't 3-bet. He called. And these are the problems it has. I probably would have folded to a 3-bet. I probably wouldn't have. But theoretically, you probably would fold to a 3-bet here. But he didn't. He called in a time with a hand that he wouldn't want to maybe do that with. He might want to play his hand, and he's got position. Whatever. I flopped my 3s. Now, this is better because I check where I normally would have just a week ago or so. Donk betted, or 2 weeks ago. Donk betted this hand and probably alerted him to the strike of the hand. Because, here he is, man. He's got middle pair. I check. He checks behind. Now, that 2 comes. Now, I throw in the 33 into a pot of 60. That looks really weak, obviously. So, he just calls. Now, that's exactly what we want. Now, he hits his 2 pair on the river. And, the pot's only $1.26. It's not a big pot. I'm not going to get a lot of value here, and I know that. He doesn't have a huge hand. But then, who knows what he would have done here. But I bet 80 cents into the 126. I lead out with the 80, kind of putting him in a spot where if he raises to like 240 or anything, well, my next step is to shove, obviously. If he calls, I've kept the range of hands that he would call with and not raise almost definitely behind me. So he basically can't win this hand. Basically, he's put into a terrible position. And he just calls, he raises. That's what he did. He raises me to 240 because he hit the 2 pair. He thinks I'm weak. He thinks he's strong enough to do that, though. Now, instead of shove, though, that previous thought that we just went through, I realized, okay, do I have the nuts? No. Is there things out there that beat me? Of course there is. There's a lot of that he would have from the big blind. This board favors his range over mine tremendously, I think. Well, maybe not. I mean, we got the ace, but where I would have done this and I got stacked earlier in the week in a situation like this was his shove. I think I isolate the range of hands to only that would call that shove. The only, and that's all he can do at that point is call or fold. He's not going to fold the hands that beat me. So I just call and bang. I win a nice pot on it with the three of a kind. Well, he's got his two pair. If I would have raised, he probably would have just folded. I mean, I don't see, but we don't know. We don't know, but I think it's a good spot to show how I'm advancing, and also that against the better players, you take a different approach and a different line than you would against the weaker players, and against a guy like this or something who's clearly a little more competent, we're not going to think, get in these open shoving scenarios as frequently. Sometimes you'll never see us for the whole night get into situations like that. But with the worst players, they'll get into situations pre-flop and flop very weak. These guys are a little different, but I like that I waited for him to hit his river. I like that I got the proper value, and I like that I didn't isolate through betting on the river to his range to only a range that beats me or dominates me. So. But that's some of the stuff for now. We'll cut this video relatively short, but you see what's going on the weekend here. You see what we're doing on Ignition, and you're starting to get the idea of Drive HUD and HUD in general and the databases and things like that. So I'll wrap this up. I don't know when I'll be back again, not long. I'm going to play some more and try to get some things going. But as you see, my VPIP and my PFR is really tightening, like I said last session, but now even more so. I mean, I'm playing aggressive. I'm going to Showdown much more. I'm winning at Showdown much more. Like I said, aggression is even lower, actually, but it's in better spots. My C betting frequencies are very good. I mean, I'm feeling very comfortable at 10-0 right now, and just with the game in general. So, good stuff. And we will talk about a lot of other things, obviously, as time goes on. But we'll also get into some training site discussion next time, too. So, hopefully you guys are having a good weekend. It's Sunday. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll be back later today, or I'll be back tomorrow, but not long. So take care, guys. Thanks.